The mayoralty for me, it's given me confidence because suddenly I was out there. I realised that I could do things that people thought were impossible. I was born in Hadley, near Southend, when it was a village still. I was about 9 when I came to Colchester, and that's been my home ever since. Your hearing to you is normal. You've got nothing to compare it with, so I didn't know I was deaf, and because my responses are quite quick, it was never picked up on. But there were challenges because my health hadn't been brilliant throughout my school years. I missed the start of subjects, so basically I taught myself maths to take my maths exam. We had a thing called the language laboratory where you practiced your French or German, and you had headphones on and they played a tape, and then you had to repeat back what you'd heard. And bizarrely, I was never very good at that. When I became a councillor and I started going into schools, I could see how much schools and education had moved on from when I was at school, which was great. At 21, I decided to run away to the Navy, join the Navy, and I wanted to be a radar wren because I had actually worked radios before and I enjoyed it. I was good on the radio because it was the days of analogue, and if there was interference, my brain works that I fill in the gaps. So other people couldn't hear what was being said, but I could, and I understood it. I passed all the exams, I passed the medical, and they said, well, just test your hearing. And that's when I found out I was deaf. I was developing my career, but I had to stop work because I wasn't well enough, and that can happen to anybody. And you don't think it's going to happen, but it does. I decided to start a family, and Jessica came along. Pregnancy can take it out of you, and if there's a weakness in your body, that's where it will go for. And the first 5 years of Jess's life, I was in and out of hospital like a yo-yo with the aggressive ear infections. My face would swell up so much that my father walked past me in hospital, he didn't recognise me. And because my hearing was so bad and I was in and out of hospital, I retired through ill health. And then in December 2001, our MP asked me if I'd ever thought of standing as a councillor, and no, I hadn't. Well, if he thinks I can do it, let's give it a go. So I gave it a go and I got elected, and that was in 2002. I had no idea what I was going into because I was not a political animal. I never went to meetings because there was no point, I couldn't hear. I wasn't politics driven. I didn't know what councillors did. Had no idea. In some ways, it was really nice because I was literally off the streets, you know, with no prior preconceptions. And my mantra has always been, if I don't know, I will ask. So that's how I learnt. One of the first public meetings that on the committees I sat on, and I couldn't hear. And, you know, and I was saying, I can't hear you. Can you speak up, please? And the answer was, well, I'm speaking as loud as I can. And then the chair called me to speak, and I didn't even hear my name. So at the end of the meeting, I walked out, burst into tears of sheer frustration, thinking, what on earth have I done? And I walked back in and I apologised to somebody who was the director. He went on to become chief exec, and I went, I'm so sorry. And he said, don't you ever apologise. You have been elected to represent your people, so it's our job to make sure that you can do it. And that's sort of like, that gave me the confidence. I think to start off with, people were a little bit nervous because they had preconceptions of deaf people. There was nobody that would be able to support me in my role as mayor better than my daughter, because A, my hearing was tuned to her, and B, she got it, and she would know straight away, like, yeah, she's blagging it, she has to. And it was just little things like, so if we were at dinner, she always sat on my hearing side, And people very quickly got used to, if I couldn't hear them, they would talk to Jess, who would relay it to me. So we'd have conversations like that. When I first started, there was the older councillors liked to project their voices, and they used to say, I don't need to use the microphone, everybody can hear me. And it very quickly became we all used to shout back, no, we can't use the microphone. Officers have been absolutely brilliant, and we work together to work out what works, what doesn't work. My favourite thing is being able to deliver on behalf of my residents, and to make a difference to one person who's struggling. I take my responsibilities very, very seriously, because if somebody can be bothered to turn out and put an X, or as I call it, a little kiss in the box next to my name, then it doesn't matter whether they voted for me or not. My job is to represent those people to the council. And that's what I do. And I get great satisfaction on campaigning on different things and delivering. I think the most frustrating, from my point of view, thing is sometimes being patronised because the old-fashioned assumption that deaf people are a bit thick. And I still get that sometimes. And I just think, if only you knew how hard I was working. You concentrate and you work so hard to make sense of what you're hearing. Sound just doesn't wash over you. You have to, I always call it compute. So my brain is working to make sense and fill in the gaps. And sometimes I get it spectacularly wrong. My close friends, I dropped from sight for a year because by the time I'd finished, I was too tired for small talk, where I chaired a full council meeting, and I relied on the live captions, so basically 4 hours of reading live captions. The next day I paid for it. I started off with conventional hearing aids when I was 21, and that was challenging because, my thinking at the time is I don't belong here. These hearing aids are what old people get. Then with the aggressive ear infections, I couldn't block off the ear canals. I think it was 99, I had a Baha, bone-anchored hearing aid, which it works on bone conduction. And so I have a titanium screw, which is a snap-on connection on the side of my head. It enabled me to be able to hear. My consultant at Colchester referred me over to Edmunds because there was a new bit of technology called the Vibrant Sound Bridge, which was a middle ear implant. And then the processor can also Bluetooth connect to this, which is another piece of hearing kit. The technology I've got is quite niche. It's not common, and I mean, there's been GPs I've seen and they've gone, oh, I've never seen this before, so I know it's niche. For what I do, it's not the best, because because it's Bluetooth connected to my phone, every time I get a notification on my phone, and you can believe I get an awful lot, it beeps to tell me that there's a notification. I lose contact with sound in the room, and it seems like a long time. It's probably only a few seconds, but then I have to wait for another 4 beeps to tell me that I can hear in the room again. So that's frustrating. So I literally just turn it off, to put airplane mode on so nobody can contact me, which again, if there was an emergency. One of the things that made me very happy is I connected more with the deaf community. And it reminded me that not one size fits all. So what I love subtitles, because that's how I hear, and I look for clues all the time. I do know a bit of BSL, but I find BSL challenging because the grammar is so different to our grammar. In Colchester, we're fortunate. We have the Arts Centre, and they are so up there with making sure that everything is accessible. We've got stage text in Colchester, so that means that if you want to go and see a live caption show, you can. It's getting there, and it's raising awareness and just making people think. When there was a booking form for me, I used to say, you know, if there's something I need to know, quiet corner. And, you know, we'd work our way through it. If the right support is in place and people understand, then you can work through your deafness. Go for it, because you have a unique take on experiences that other people haven't, and you can bring that to the mix, because it would be so boring if we were all exactly the same. You know, we've got to learn from each other. My mantra is, there's no such word as can't, it's, well, watch me.